peter out and they're just like, you know, ready to fucking pass out essentially.
Yeah, for people that don't know, when you see a bodybuilder on stage and they're fully shredded and ripped and flexing, they are so dehydrated. Yeah. They're like ready to black out.
Yeah, like there's definitely safer ways to do it, but ultimately going down to deathly low body fat levels, cutting water, doing all these things, it's just like there's nothing healthy about it. Like your body was never meant to get there fucking ever.
Not only that, your body never naturally would keep that amount of mass while you have such low body fat.
No, you're like fighting like all mechanisms of biology to like get there. Yeah. Your body is like, what are you doing to me?
Isn't it interesting though that to people represents like the ultimate physique?
Yeah, it's fucked.
Like looking like you're dying. That's the ultimate physique.
I have a friend that got so lean, he couldn't even walk around because his feet, like the padding on the bottom, was essentially gone because he had no fat anywhere. So it was like painful for him to walk and to sit, like his ass bones would be like sticking out and he couldn't even like sit on a chair without like padding and stuff.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it gets nuts.
But wouldn't you also imagine that's like massive inflammation in all of his joints and like that everything is just like on high alert?
True, that too. Yeah.
It's just in agony.
Yeah, and it's like you're not even able to sleep. Like
God, it's so bad.
You're just starving as hell and you're slamming stimulants like Adderall and whatnot to crush your appetite in order to sustain your absurd deficit.
There was a family that we knew in California, and the husband was just a normal guy with like a regular job, and he decided to enter into a bodybuilding competition, and he got like really low body fat and, you know, did the whole deal, did the competition, and then afterwards experienced organ failure and died.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, for nothing.
Yeah, it's like often...
like 36-year-old guy. He was like, looked great.
Yeah. Oftentimes it's the wild thing is it's not like a sport that is highly monetizable anyways.
Right.
Like your prize money will be nothingness unless you're like at the top of the sport. And even then it's like in general, like I know guys who make more money in the fitness industry as just like influencer bros than the most top tier bodybuilders because the bodybuilders are so dedicated to their craft and eating and training and sleeping. They don't even have the mental bandwidth to do anything entrepreneurial outside of that. So they, even though they're the top echelon in the sport, like even their earning potential is capped by like the what is imposed on them from the sport to maintain just this fucking brontosaurus physique. Yeah.
And how long can they do that? Like,
it depends. Some of them die in like their late 20s. It's fucked.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and it is no different than anorexia.
No, yeah.
It's just body dysmorphia. They get so, like, when you are around those guys, like, the worst thing anybody could ever say to one of them, like, hey, man, do you lose weight? Yeah. And they'll be like, what the fuck? Yeah? What are you saying? Yeah. You think I lost weight? Yeah. What are you saying? And like it'll fuck with their, even if they're massive, they're gigantic.
Yeah, and it's like ultimately, I think the Liver King thing is like a hyper extreme, like perfect example of that very situation. Like I believe he had like extreme body dysmorphia, just like most bodybuilders, wanted to juice it up, even though it's like contrary to what he is promoting in his ancestral ways, and just hope people wouldn't find out.
Honestly, I don't give him that much benefit of the doubt. I think what he was doing was just pure deception. I don't think there's body dysmorphia involved.
I think even if he wasn't promoting it, though, he would have still looked like that and done that stuff.
I bet he would have looked close. Because I think, didn't you go back to his early Instagram?
He's definitely incentivized to push it harder when he's a front-facing public figure. I'm not doubting that. I'm just saying I do believe he would not just be on therapeutic HRT if it wasn't for... Even if it wasn't for the message, like I think he very much enjoys like progressing and getting a good physique and looking the way he does.
Right, yeah, you might be right about that.
Which is like what a lot of bodybuilders ultimately, when they get into this, it's not for like, oh, I just want to win Mr. Olympia. For some of them, very few, potentially that is the end goal, but it often stems from like an insecurity of your, you know, whatever it is from your youth, or you feel your physique is inadequate, whatever it is, and then you compensate aggressively by going like hardcore into the, you know, chemical enhancement realm, even at the detriment of your own health in order to look a certain way.
Yeah, and that's where that whole thing about him being a charlatan from your video comes into play, because he's selling this ancestral line of supplements, you know, where it's all, also, I have a friend who is very knowledgeable about this stuff, and he expressed some concern, and I actually reached out to Paul about this, Paul Saladino, and Paul says that it's very, very little concern, but he was saying that when you're dealing with organ meat, and, you know, you're, like, there's possibilities of getting prions involved, and this was where mad cow disease came to play. You're talking about, like, cow brains and all these different things. He was concerned. And this is a very knowledgeable person. I reached out to Paul. He gave me a very knowledgeable and really well thought out response, and and particularly where they get their organs. Everything is grass fed, grass finished. It's all pasture raised animals that are raised in the most natural of conditions.
Are you talking about like the raw organ meats they eat on camera, or like literally
desiccated,
the actual supplements?
Yeah, the actual supplements.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now my friend, by the way, has no. He's not involved in the organ supplement business, so maybe he doesn't understand how it's run. But he's like, when you deal with organs, like you're opening up the door for, like, you don't know if you don't absolutely know the source of these organs. But no one's disputing whether or not organs are good for you. Organs, they're so good for you.
Yeah.
Heart and kidney and particularly liver. So good for you.
And that's what's hopefully the outcome isn't at the detriment of that message too, because it's like I hope people don't just take like the Liver King debacle as like everything he said was nonsense, because like he had a lot of good information, like a lot of stuff that was motivating, stuff that could have been implemented to improve your quality of life, health, vitality, etc. It's just unfortunate the way he went about doing it.
The real Liver King is Paul Saladino.
Yeah.
He's really eating that. And go to Paul Saladino's Instagram, like show some pictures of his physique. If you want to look like that guy, no hormone replacement, just gets sunlight outside. He's super healthy. All he eats is organic fruits and meat and organ meat. And that's it.
Yeah. And one thing I think Paul would be on board with, but is like, just because it's not ancestrally consistent to be on exogenous synthetic DRT, it's not like you should live in a suboptimal state or quality of life because you're trying to be ancestrally consistent.
Right. Like, look at Paul. That's healthy. That's real. Like what that guy's built like, that is 100% natural and achievable. Yeah. And he really does. Like, he lives in Costa Rica. He surfs every day. He eats nothing but healthy food.
I feel like our podcast, it's the thumbnails on the bottom right there, but I grilled him pretty hard on, like, in a respectful way, I felt, of like a lot of the incongruencies or concerns about, the diet model and like, micronutrient shortcomings. Like, there are certain more difficult things to get in through like a nose to tail diet, like magnesium. And like we touched on a lot of that stuff. And
does he recommend supplementation with magnesium to compensate for that? Or how does he handle that?
He thinks that the RDAs for them, like many other vitamins and minerals, are potentially off because he does a lot of blood chemistry to see where he's at, and he's like quite hyper aware of his like biofeedback and kind of knows what's going on, and he's never been deficient from what he can tell. So he believes that, like, if warranted, I'm sure he would recommend it, but he thinks that he gets enough from his diet. But he's not opposed to supplementation when warranted. Like, there are certain individuals who might benefit from, I don't know, extra choline if they, if your diet too is, even if it's nose to tail, if you're trying to lose weight or something and you're in like a little bit of a deficit or whatever, like maybe you might be a little bit deficient in one micronutrient, and then it's, justified to take a supplement with it. Like, I'm sure he would be on board with that. And that is the whole premise of, the supplements to begin with, is if you don't want to eat like a fucking heart, like here's heart.
Right. And the fact that you could swallow it very easily and mix it with all your other supplements.